Welcome to Teach or Not to Teach, the vlog that explores the challenges and triumphs of education.
We are here to dig into the big questions and debates surrounding education. Join us as we talk about the latest trends, technologies, and instructional strategies.
Because at the end of the day, the goal is to provide every student with the best education possible. Let's start learning together on To Teach or Not to Teach. Hey, educator friends, welcome to our episode on To Teach or Not to Teach. We are so excited about this episode because we have a good friend of ours as a guest speaker today, sharing some amazing knowledge about how to teach happier. So today we have our happiness coach guru, Miss Kim Strobel, with us today. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I always laugh sometimes because when I'm introduced as a happiness coach and I come out from behind the curtain, gals, I feel like 80% of people hate me already because it's like, oh, goodness, who's this like fluffy unicorn sunshine sprinkles? And I promise you, it is not that.
Yeah, especially in education. I feel like we put on this front of like glitter and happiness and all the things, and then we're like, it's messy. It's messy.
Yeah. And we don't talk about the messy, right? Like we all go through the hallways with smiles and we're greeting everybody. And then we're in our cars, driving home, crying, stressed,
Absolutely. Or we're like hiding in each other's classrooms with the doors shut, and we're like trying to just like get our lives back together before our kids come back from PE.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
so true.
I know. I think that this, you and I talked about your book, Teach Happy. And I was just telling Kim before we started this that this book right here I read during testing season the last week of school. And as much as we don't want to pick up an extra book to read during the last few weeks of school, this one, it was some gold information, I think, not only for us as educators, but just in life. So I kind of wanted to unpack that with you a little bit and give our viewers some insight of how amazing ideas that you have for just kind of being a little bit happier in your life.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like a 10-year project. I simply would write for a little bit and then I would abandon it for several years because I just didn't believe in myself to be a writer. But guess what? I do believe in. I believe in my ability to speak because I speak all across the country. And so I just decided to take what I speak about and then, reverse engineer it. So finally it came to fruition, thankfully. And I am proud of it. And I think it is helpful. It's a blueprint, right? So we can't just say like, oh, I want to get my life back in teaching. I don't want to feel drained and defeated and overwhelmed and keep living the same day in and day out. But I don't know what to do different. I don't see anywhere where I can do anything different. And what this book is it's a blueprint for helping you really look and evaluate these different areas of your life, and actually figure out where your power lies. That's what it is. It's like, how do we give ourselves our power back? Because we can very easily feel like we're a victim of a system that is completely out of control.
Absolutely. Speaking on that, there's one part in your book that you talk about that we may not be able to change the system, but we can change how we can operate within the system. Like, how powerful is that? I love that. Can you talk us a little bit about that statement?
Yes, well, I don't do fluff. And the bottom line is the teaching profession is completely out of control. And we know this. The cognitive demand that is placed on us is so overwhelming because what we are tasked with doing in a day's time far exceeds the number of hours that we're given to do it. So it feels like it's never enough, which causes tremendous anxiety in all of us because we can never get ahead of the game. I think that is a huge issue, which is leading to a number of really truly like exasperation at times in this profession. I don't feel like we can change. I don't know that this profession is going to get easier. I wish I could tell you it is. I don't even want to concentrate on that because in my own life, there have been so many times where I have felt powerless in something that was done to me, how I was treated, an unfair experience, an adversity or a challenge. And what I have learned in my life that there's only one thing that I have power over, and that is Kim Strobel. And when I stay zeroed in on that, and I focus on how I'm going to show up and how I'm going to operate in whatever if it's how I'm going to show up and operate in this education system, that's the only thing you have power over. So let's put all our energy into understanding how to get you to tap into your power to make the changes that are necessary so that you feel better in all areas of your life. Because while teaching is a noble, sacred profession, we all know why we went into this. The bottom line is it's stealing the other parts of our life, and that is unfair. And it's only up to us to get that back.
Oof.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as teacher moms, we have kids at home, and by the end of the day, we're like, we don't want to read with you because we just read with 25 students at school. And you're exactly right. It does. It just like drains you,
Mhm.
and you don't have time for the things that you love at home or off of the campus. So, um, I guess this podcast, I really want to give our educator friends like some advice for them how they can kind of maximize their summer for happiness for their following year. Do you have any ideas for them or some thoughts on that?
Yes, okay. So first and foremost, and I'm going to be speaking to mostly women here, even though you may have, other people listening, but I have this quote that I feel like resonates that I read somewhere, and it said, women are expected to raise children as if they do not have a full-time career,
Mm.
and they are expected to work a full-time career as if they don't have children.
Mhm.
Mm.
So the issue is that whether it was our parents or our grandmothers, we have generations of women before us who their job was to stay at home and take care of every single thing that comes with raising children and managing a household. And that was their sole role. But in the last 50 or so years, women are now in the workforce. And the issue is that many times we women are still responsible for the entire weight of what it takes to raise our children and to raise our households. I think that this is an issue in that we as women have been trained that we are to give everything we have of ourselves to others. And if there's anything left over at the end of the day, we get it. And there's never anything left over at the end of the day. And so it's this continuous cycle. And so what we have to do, you all, is really we have to extract these old social constructs that are very much a part of our DNA as women. And we have to download a new set of beliefs and how we operate in the world. And that is going to cause us to be uncomfortable because as women, we have guilt. Like we have so much guilt. Like I remember I would spend hours and hours and hours playing with our children. And I'm not saying that my husband didn't play with them, but he didn't invest near the amount of time, and he had zero guilt putting his head down on the pillow at night. And
Yes.
I'm over there going, did I do enough? And so I really think it's a rewiring and understanding that we women do work full-time jobs. And my golly, we are allowed to ask for help because we no longer have to do every single thing at home.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And then so you have like mom guilt, and then we got teacher guilt, and all those, and then you're like, man, am I doing anything right in my world? Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. So yeah, this summer we need to focus on kind of, delegating some of those jobs. I think, finding that balance. Kara and I have to find that balance with our business and with teaching and with our family. You can't do it all. You have to find those people to kind of help you through all of that
Yeah.
weight, all of that weight.
And like there's one piece in your book that I really enjoyed. It talked about it's not necessarily balance, but you talked about flow and how there are certain aspects of your life that, will get more attention at certain times than others. And like it'll just like just the ebb and flow of the things coming and going. And I think that was a super powerful piece, I think, for both of us when we read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't stand the word balance because,
No.
I feel like my whole life I've been trying to achieve balance. Like, okay, are you putting enough into your parenting? Are you putting enough into your marriage? Are you showing up the way you need to show up in your career? Are you doing your physical exercise? Like, do you have all of these pieces in place? And like, are you doing due diligence to all of them? And what I found is that I was always failing. Like, if I'm knocking it out of the ballpark over here in my career, I'm failing over here in my parenting piece or the marriage piece, or I'm not attending to our financial piece that I need to be aware of. And so I finally decided, like, I don't even like that word because I think it's impossible to achieve balance. Like, let's just throw that darn word out the door. And I replaced it with the word flow. And I have a little bit of a different definition to it. But what I really encourage people to do is to find flow in their life. And flow, just the word itself, it feels a little lighter and it feels a little easier, doesn't it, ladies?
Mhm.
Absolutely. It after I read it in your book, I went home to my husband. I was like, "It's not balance. We don't have to be balanced. We can just let it flow." And he looked at me with, he's not in education at all. It's the end of the year. I gibber at the end of the year. He knows just to leave me away, like leave me alone. And so I explained it to him about this, and it is life-changing of what it
Yes.
did for not only me personally, but like our marriage and our business and our teaching, but knowing that it's okay to just give more time here and then a little bit here and then a little bit here. It makes it feel manageable. I feel a little happier. It's
Yeah.
perfect. I love that.
And flow, what flow means, it means that I'm not knocking it out of the ballpark in every area of my life all of the time. In the book, we do something called the Wheel of Life, and it has 8 categories that have been shown to be kind of critical to living a life that is, fulfilling and feels good. And so we have these kind of 8 focus areas, like we have our family and our friends. That's an important piece of the pie, right? Our marriage or partnership, um, career, that's a piece of the pie as well. Finances, health and fitness. There's all these categories. And what we want you to do is evaluate those categories and reach for flow and not balance. And flow means that I don't feel like I'm knocking it out of the ballpark in this particular area all of the time, but I am more times than not feeling good in that area of my life. And I always tell people, all you have to do is tip the scales by 1%. If I'm like, I'm 51% now feeling good in my career, then I'm not. What that little tiny 1% does, which James Clear talks about that, is it acts as combined interest in your life and it begins to gain momentum and it creates that ripple effect. And so you start to be able to make progress more and more and more in that area of your life. But what we have to do is kind of look at that wheel of life and say, and we talk you through this in the book, you kind of rate, how you feel in those 8 different areas. And then you decide what are the 1 or 2 areas that I need to up the score in that are super important to me at this time of my life. And then what we have to do is we have to generate energy towards that piece of the pie in order to change that particular piece that is important to us. So at times in my life, like I will just tell you, in the month of July and August, my marriage will totally be on a back burner because Kim Strobel is going to be in a different state every single day for weeks on end. And that's okay because Kim Strobel is a career woman and she's doing what she loves. And then come back September, I will kind of get my work set to the wayside a little bit and I will be very focused on Scott Strobel and, nurturing that relationship. So it's this idea of understanding that we have to somewhat lower the expectations we have of ourselves in order to feel better inside of who we are.
Yeah, and what a great time for educators in the summer to kind of find that flow and work through that. I say all the time that you have to be uncomfortable, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
You have to try something new or try something different, that we get stuck in these like ruts, and we just keep going in that same path, whether we're happy there or not, and we just think it's the right way to go and it's working, but it's not feeling very great. And I think this is a great way to kind of try out some of those different areas and be okay with just trying something a little bit different to find that happiness.
Yeah, a little piece of reflection along with, trying to improve your happiness as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
definitely.
have to tell you, Kara and Meg, I did a training in Kentucky a few years ago, and there were 26 female teachers. It was the end of July, and I asked them, what did you do for yourself this summer? Not one of those women could come up with one thing they had done just for themselves.
Oh,
They had spent their whole summer going to ball games, and like preparing for the next school year, right? Like I gotta do all of this stuff this summer that I don't have time to do during the school year, just so that I think I can make it through another year. And women in particular have not been wired to put themselves first in the equation of life. I learned to do that several years ago. And I remember my son, he's 23, but when he was 18 years old, he stopped me in the hallway and he goes, "You know what, Mom? I've been raised with a mom who my friends describe as a happy mom.
Mm,
And I think you're a happy mom because while you're a fantastic mother to me, I've also watched that you know that you're more than a mother."
Mm.
absolutely. Oof, that's goosebumps.
Yeah.
I have a 15-year-old and, that he sees the hard work and the dedication that Kara and I put into, something that we have hopes and dreams for. We like yourself want education to be better. We
Mhm.
have instructional strategies that we have seen change the lives of educators and students. And so he's seen the blood, sweat, and tears, come about this. And he also, I think it's so powerful to show our kids that, our own personal ones, that working through something like that and finding that joy and that happiness. And we baseball is life in my world. I am we are everywhere. Doing
God bless you.
oh geez. Let me tell you, two traveling to anyways, that's a whole the flow of that, the flow of that. But man, one of them came up to me and said, "Mom, thank you for coming to the games that you can come to." And it as a mom, that would have probably broken me earlier. Thank you for coming to ones that you could come to. But now I'm like, you know what? Like I'm showing up for you, but I'm also showing up for things that are making me happy in my life too. And so, yeah, how powerful in that, just that learning of the
Mhm.
flow of life. I
Mhm.
love that.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of getting everything done in the summer, whether you're cleaning out your closet, organizing everything, meal prepping, whatever does us teachers do because we have the summer off, sarcastically. What are some ideas or some thoughts that you have, Kim, that could kind of prepare teachers for the upcoming year? Not necessarily like trying to get it all done and fiddle in so that we can make it through the next school year, but for a more positive and happier start, do you have any ideas or thoughts for them, come August, September?
Well, you're talking to the woman who come about mid-July, I would go and buy something crazy like 25 pounds of ground beef, and I would start frying it up and putting it in Ziploc baggies for meals because it was like, I remember thinking, how am I going to get everything done and go back to this working this job come August? Like there was so much anxiety there back in that day. And so first of all, what we have to do is we have to engineer our environment for success. And so, what that means is, and I think I want to read this quote real quickly to you. And it's by James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. And he says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems."
Mm,
Mm.
And so this is really about engineering your environment so that you can be successful because we all go into the school year and we go, "I'm not going to let it happen again. I'm not going to let this job eat me alive. I'm not going to stay till 5 o'clock. I'm not going to come in on the weekends. I'm not going to take 2 hours worth of work home." And my golly, every single year it happens to us again.
Mm.
And it's because we have um, if you think about your brain and your mind, what we know is that the conscious mind is the thinking, rationalizing mind. It's the mind that you and I are in all the time. Like, I need to make this grocery list. I'm having this conversation right now with Meg and Kate. It's the thinking, rationalizing mind. But there's this whole other dark room of the mind called the subconscious mind. And it really is like a dark room because it's where all our habits and behaviors are triggering all of the time, and they're on automatic because we've done it that way for so many years. But
mm,
what we know is that only about 5% of how you show up and navigate your life comes from your conscious mind.
Hmm.
95% of how Meg and Kate are showing up in everything from their relationship with their husband, the way they parent their children, how they operate at work. 95% is coming from the subconscious mind. And most of your subconscious mind is your beliefs, the beliefs that have been downloaded into you. And by the way, most of our beliefs were completely formed by the age of 6.
Oh, wow.
So you learned how to navigate relationships
Hmm.
because of what you observed by your parents, your caretakers. You know, we're just constantly getting this absorption. And so this is why it's so hard for people to change their behavior, because it's not about willpower. It has nothing to do with willpower. Like when people are like, oh, I just don't have the willpower to lose weight. It's my willpower. I just can't make myself exercise. I just can't make myself eat healthier, whatever. It's actually because you're relying on your conscious mind, and that's only 5% of it. 95% of it is you doing the deep, dark work of, okay, what are the beliefs that I have carried about myself, and how do I literally go inside and do the hard work on Kim Strobel so that I create a new pathway going forward? And one of the ways we do that's how we engineer our environment for success, right? And it goes back to James Clear, is we got to have systems in place. And the only way that you guys can change the systems, the operating systems that you're using, is by literally rewiring the inner workings, the blueprint of what makes Meg and Kara and how they operate and show up. And so, that's like the work that the book is charging you with to do, is like, do you really know how to create boundaries in your life? Do you? Or like when people say, okay, Kim, one of the happiness habits that you talk about that falls in the top 5 research based is move your body 30 minutes a day.
Mhm.
And you girls are going, look, Kim Strobel, I got young kids. I'm not an empty nester like you. I have this full-time teaching job. I'm doing this podcast. Like, please don't tell me to go walk for 30 minutes when I don't even think I can breathe for the next 5. But one of the activities that I do with people, just so that they can become aware of how they're spending their time and energy. And let's do it right now, ladies. So you and I get our iPhones out. Are you ready?
Yes.
Or your Android, but I have an iPhone, so I'm going to coach you through it. And I want you to go to the settings app. And if your listeners are listening, I want you to do this right now with us.
Okay.
So click on settings.
Okay.
You're going to scroll down to about the 9th one where it says screen time.
Okay.
And you're going to click on that. And at the very top, it shows me this graph, and it says that my daily average is 4 hours and 28 minutes. What's yours say, girls?
I've got 3 hours and 25 minutes.
I got 4 hours and 17 minutes.
So this is not to cause any of us shame, because this is the world that we live in. Okay.
Right.
But then what I want you to do is right under that graph, it says see all app and website activity.
Okay.
And you're going to scroll down. And if you have this turned on, it shows for me. So it is 1:30 my time. And it shows that I've already spent, which actually this is pretty good this morning, because normally it would be more than this. I've spent 11 minutes on Facebook, 28 minutes on messages, 5 minutes on Messenger, 16 minutes on Instagram, 16 minutes on LinkedIn. And it's showing me how much time I'm spending on my apps. Do you guys see that on yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I click through my days, depending on what day it is, it depends. A lot of my Google Calendar is coming up more times than it should. I must check that thing like hotcakes. Like what am
Yes. Isn't that self-awareness right there?
Yes.
Yes. And
Okay.
so here's how I engineered my environment for success. I have time in the morning, and I usually I get up, I do my meditation, I drink my shakes, I write my gratitudes, I do my affirmations. I mean, I've got some major happiness habits in place, and I got the time to do all of this in the morning. I'm an early riser. So then I play on social media, and I click on Facebook, and I click on Instagram, and I really enjoy that. But Kim Strobel has a freaking dopamine brain, and I will click on that stuff on and off, or my email app, all the way into the evening, just randomly clicking on it. I got to click on it. Do I have emails? Oh, let's check. Might only be for 30 seconds, but I'm checking it, right? So what I noticed is when I started looking at that, it would say okay, Kim, you've spent an hour and 30 minutes on your social media apps today. And oh my God, it even tells you how many times you click it. It will say
Oh.
like, you clicked on the Facebook app 72 times today or whatever it is. Well, so here's why this helped me. I all of a sudden had awareness. I would have never guessed I was spending that much time on those apps. And not only that, I know I don't feel good when I'm
Yeah.
constantly pinging my phone. So I learned that you can actually go in to screen time, and under that graph, you can hit app limits.
Mm.
Mm.
And so I said, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, I'm going to give myself 60 minutes a day, and I'm going to lower that by 5 minutes until I get to 50 minutes a day. So
Mm.
what it does now is it pings me and it says, Kim, you've got 5 minutes left. And it'll be 11 a.m. in the morning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get off of this thing and put it away, right?
Yes.
Because I'm engineering. I can't just say, Kim, quit clicking on your stuff all the time.
Right.
My brain is going to win every single time.
Mhm.
And then I discovered that I have a real problem with checking email because I am somebody who always wants to keep their email inbox cleaned up. And so like it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I'm, oh my God, do I have any emails? Do I need? And I'm like, that is stealing away from everything in my evenings. So in there, you can create downtime. So I set it up from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. All those apps go grayed. They go grayed out on my phone.
Mhm.
So now when I see that, I go, oh, that's a reminder. I've told myself I'm not going to check the email app after 6. And now I just got a trigger that shows me, Kim, look, it's grayed out. You don't do that. That's not who you are anymore.
Mm.
And so what this does is for people who say, I don't have time for myself, Kim. I
Mhm.
don't have time to move my body 30. I have to do a gratitude list. I say what you need to understand is you are choosing where you spend your time. And I don't care if you spend 75 minutes a day on social media. I just want you to know that what you're choosing is you're choosing to spend your time on social media and not doing something that's actually going to help you with your mental health.
Mm.
Oof. And how powerful. I mean, we think about us as adults, but then also our high school, our junior high, our kids that don't have that practice in place. Like that's us, right?
Mhm.
We need to help them pave that pathway and model for them, what it should look like or what it could look like. When they say, "Well, I don't have time to do homework." Yeah, well, have you sat on your video game for an hour and a half? So just such great advice, I think, for just living in general, and of course, in the educational realm. I think that as educators, I say all the time how unique of a beings we are.
Mhm.
We can take something that's restricted and we can craft it and mold it and change it into something just phenomenal for children. And at the end of the day, we do need to take time for ourselves and to be a little bit happier because they need us to be there in the classroom, but also our families need us to be there for them as well.
Mhm.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Kim, this was absolutely phenomenal. I
Mhm.
think that you have provided, of course, us with even more insight of how this could be helpful.
Mhm.
If you haven't already, you need to get the book Teach
Mhm.
Happy. It is next level. It won't take you very long to read because it is that good. It will be hard to put down.
Mhm.
It is a blueprint to life, and it's something that I think we'll go back to again and again and again. So, Kim, how do we get our listeners and our viewers to get this book in their hands?
Well, it's available on Amazon for like 23 bucks, but I actually have a lot of school districts who are reaching out and they're purchasing copies for their teachers and their school leaders because they're kind of like, hey, let's really change the culture of this. And so if you go to my website, strobeleducation.com, you'll see Teach Happy up in the menu bar. And if there's 10 or more copies delivered to one location, you get the books for 15 bucks a piece.
Mm.
And
This
there's a downloadable study guide that walks you through the book. If you are like most teachers are, we're a little type A. We're like, okay, if I'm doing this, I'm like doing it all. I'm going to answer the questions. I'm going to apply this to my life.
I love that. Awesome. Well, Kim, thank you so much again. We can't wait for everybody to get this on their desk and in their hands. I think we gave some really valuable information for them to start the new school year. So thank you for
Yes.
being with us today. We really appreciate having you.
Oh, thank you, ladies. It was my honor.
All right. Thanks, guys. Until next time on To
To
Teach or Not to Teach.